But yeah, thank you everybody for having the patience to line up as we're just letting people in. This is a similar stream and parody panel that I ran earlier. Surviving Mecha Attack was the first one that we ran earlier today. And in addition to the sequel, the direct sequel panel to Surviving a Mecha Attack, which is called Embracing Your Robot Overlords. Because no one paid attention the first time we yelled. I wanted to do something else. Now, what I end up seeing a lot in anime conventions is a con convergence in the sense that they're not so much anime conventions anymore. They are really kind of the internet as a sleepover camp. They are 4chan, the daycare. They are Tumblr, the LARP. Like, we didn't even need DashCon for that. It was already called Otakon.
Where's the ball?
Welcome, everybody. My name is Uncle Yo. I am a geek-specific stand-up comedian. They flew my fat ass all the way down here from Queens, New York. And last year, around February and March of my podcast, We Are the Geek, I decided to ask the equivalent question of, can you be an American, Western-raised feminist? And what compromises does it take to continue watching and enjoying anime? Anime coming from that luscious, wonderful, progressive country called Japan, where they raise the age of consent to 12. Sometimes you wonder if they're there just to make Germany look normal. Could the nation that gives us continuously hentai, despite us not asking for it, could they be considered something progressive? And are we able to have that open dialogue as you see more and more videos on Upworthy.com and you see the internet sort of take this social rise to something along the lines of social justice? Are we steps closer to equality? And it's brought up a lot of interesting conceptions and contraceptives as we ran through the website. So there was a block on my podcast, We Are the Geek, all about my favorite magical girl shows. We talked about Utena extremely. We did 2.5 episodes of Monaco. We talked Princess Tutu. And after a lot of the discussion was done, it came to the fact that the dialogue was still going on. So a lot of this is going to be tip of the iceberg on simply feminist theory, in addition to my continuously screaming at you. These are a few of my favorite magical girl shows, what they taught me about how heroes and heroines don't need to be separated from that. Ultimately, what I would like to do toward the end of the panel is enlist you guys and let you know the differences between male heroes, female heroes, and really why they don't need to be defined by their genitals at all. Except, of course, for restrooms, that is up for them to decide. So basically, I'm going to get into character. Welcome, new recruits, to Magical Girl Bootcamp! When I ask you a question, you will respond with yo, yes, yo! Are you guys feeling good today? A little slow on the uptake, Monica. A little slow to make that decision there. But then again, considering the show, not in the least bit surprised. Try it, son. I'm a comedian 6 years in, and this is my place of power. Let's have some fun with this. This is going to be an hour of continuous yelling, and the hope is I will have enough time to recover my voice when I crash the halftime show at the Masquerade later tonight. I do apologize for anyone who did not get the chance to see the stand-up last night. Let's go into the fun and differences of this. Welcome to Magical Girl Bootcamp. By the end of this panel, I hope to install you guys with the confidence and the ruffles you need to take on the forces of evil and darkness and be decent freaking human beings. Not decent warriors, not decent men toward women, or not decent women toward women or toward men. People toward people. And I start over here on the West. This is where all of our conceptions are going to come from. We grew up here in the US, which means most of our ideas of princesses, let's start there. Let's start with the adaptation of princesses in modern fairy tales. Let's talk about the difference in Eastern and Western fairy tales. The ones brought to us by Grimm, the Grimm brothers, the ones that are brought to us by Hans Christian Andersen. There is always that other world. That's where the magic, the unexplained, the outsiders come from. Maybe they kidnap a princess. Maybe they came over at some point, crossbred, and several generations later, you kind of got a Queen Titania Oberon thing battling off against the gargoyles. The trope of those stories end up going, you have a young princess. Now, What Disney did to homogenize and really whitewash a lot of those cultures is give us the same sort of European background and let us know that those princesses that we were raised with that are now returning to our cultural subconscious as the internet basically is now in love with Disney princess. It used to be steampunk. You realize it was like steampunk Avengers, steampunk Star Wars, and now it's Disney princess as Sailor Scouts, Disney princess as Star Wars, Disney princess as positive feminine role models someday, Disney princess as Chuck Norris. We already have that. Her name's Chun-Li. And she is gorgeous and full of more thighs than a bucket of KFC. Some of the common mythological threads that run through our classic reading of fairy tales come from the noble birth or lineage. A princess is someone who is born already with expectations on her shoulder and has to reach her knowledge and compassionate potential. There's also the stereotype that we get again and again with the wicked stepmother. Now, in case you don't realize, the Grimm fairy tales, they grew out of old legends that their weird gypsy grandmother would tell them. Guess what? When you're in the 1300s in Germany, what's the most common thing you see day after day other than depression? Death. Plus, you know, they're German. So people were dropping dead left and right from either the plague or getting attacked by gypsies or their gypsy grandmothers. So you lose your mother and father often. You're always kind of forced to remarry, and there's always a weird disposition when something is not of your kin. They are the outsider coming, sneaking into your family. Those are those weird archetypes that touch us as people. It's up to the princess's job to maybe in some case conquer the wicked stepmother, or in some case be the hero and eventually become the queen. The queen ends up being, for the most intents and purposes, the reasons we had them in our world historically, they were the national icon, all right? As long as someone sat the throne, the head of state was still operating. God save the queen. The moment you attack any anthill, every ant suddenly starts sacrificing themselves, knowing that the legacy comes from the queen itself. They are the, if you will, the Golden Grail, the Holy Grail, if you will. They're the golden cup holding the lifeblood of the nation itself. Now, one of the more common criticisms that we as modern fans, who expect all of our heroes to be able to pick up swords and just punch Kratos in the face, now you'll see the feminist debate even in video games and graphic novels and comic books. Why would I read Wonder Woman? She's just Kratos with boobs. Oh, that suddenly makes it better. Well, Wonder Woman does exactly what Kratos does. Well, then what's the point of her even being woman? Why not just make it Wonder? Why not just put a double D cup on Kratos? They did that. The anime is called Claymore. One of the more common criticisms you'll get from watching Sleeping Beauty or watching Snow White and Rapunzel, why are the princesses so helpless for a majority of their younger life? Why do they begin innocent? Why are they locked away in the tower? Why are they always falling into a deep sleep? Why do they spend most of the story unaffecting the story and in a state of unconsciousness? It's a metaphor for the change in a young woman's body. It's called puberty, guys, I'm not gonna lie. Because one of the biggest biological differences and psychological differences that I have, getting American males to break some of those old set bones of the difference between men and women that were started by, established in 90s stand-up comedy, the big difference, the psychological differences versus the physical differences. Women go through phases of their life. We all start as children. Women go through menstruation. They become full-on women. They become mothers. Then eventually menopause. They start shutting down. They start becoming crones. Now they replace physical beauty with mental wisdom. They have something that they can share. Versus the male story, which is basically pre-pube, no pre-pube, with pube, I'm good to go. That's really the two-step older one is being a guy. It's also the biggest difference that we have, the biggest struggle in trying to get boys to watch shows that star girls, unless we do the American stereotype, which is sucker punch. Well, yeah, they're dressed like strippers, but so long as they have big guns and are shooting things like men, that's what makes them interesting characters, right? No! The biggest difference in stepping into a princess story and the struggles that a princess goes through is the psychological carrying of the burden. It's not Atlas where you are physically doing a task. You're not Hercules where you're dragging one thing to another, you're physically stomping on something. How many of you have ever watched your boyfriend go, there's a spider, now there's not a spider. We're going to keep having sex, right? The big difference is men can compartmentalize. This is just something that we learned from studying our early DNA and ever since then. The hunter versus the gatherer. Think of the metaphor of the house. Think of the metaphor of the house that our marriage counselor gave us a couple of years ago. Men see love as a room. They see it as they open up a window, they install an air conditioning unit. This is my room for love. This is my room for my love of cars. This is my room for my love of guns. This is where the wife goes. This is where bacon goes. Women in their minds install central air conditioning. Everything affects everything else, from how you felt the day before to what's going on afterward. That's why they're great program managers, because there's this omniscient view of the world. That's the hardest concept that I have to break as we go into the magical girl genre itself, because you'll find the greatest foe of a magical girl is not ever the enemy. It's always the internal struggle. Internal conflict can be so much more interesting than physical conflict. Physical conflict, you know exactly what it's going to be. It's the difference between Dungeons and Dragons and an actual tabletop RPG, okay? It's the difference between a Jason Statham movie and an actual movie. You are not a character just because you're backflipping out of a speedboat into a horizontal helicopter. You're a character when you start questioning why. And this will come under some of the even the more interesting arguments that we'll get into even Shakespeare time. Why is Hamlet such a whiny bitch? Why does Hamlet spend the entire play wondering, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? That is the main action, the internal unknowing. The fear of it, conquering the fear of that is the story. He's not exactly strangling a wolf, he's strangling himself and understanding and going over his own misconceptions. The goal of every princess, gather, reunite, and eventually become what everyone dreams of being, a beautiful queen. I want to break free. I want to break free. The Protomen did an amazing cover album, by the way. That is one of the most beautiful albums I've purchased in a very long time.
So much better live.
Western versus Eastern magical girls. This is where we start from. Now that we just had like a basically Feminist Theory 101 condensed into 4.5 minutes, I don't apologize because I just don't have the time for it. I want to get into Sailor Moon as quickly as I want to talk about Sailor Moon as quickly as possible. Why did they give her duck lips in the relaunch? Western stereotypes versus Eastern stereotypes. Our version of what a strong female character is versus what we believe a strong female character is versus what the East believes what a strong female character is. Let's go over some of the veterans and some of the exercises that you will be doing when you go out and start battling the forces of darkness. Mission briefings 101. Princesses end up having very different jobs and very different themes in their stories than most guys do. Most guys go out into the woods, find something, find the wolf, find the bear, kill it, bring it back, and or eat it. Whatever works for you, smack it with a roll-up newspaper. Make it an action, make it punch till it doesn't punch back no more. Versus Kagome's whole quest in Inuyasha, reunite the shattered Shikanju. Without it sitting on the throne of this powerful gem, the world will be there in chaos. Princess Bubblegum we see time and time again as a teacher, as an educator, as someone trying to prep up Finn to be the absolute best that he can be. She uses science in a world against magic. She uses logic in a world with Lumpy Space Princess. Trying to reunite, set things right within the Ice King's mind, within the Ice King's heart. Ever notice, too, how in fairy tale mythology, and even magical girls, queens are always the bad guys. Think of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. It's Princess Celestia, Princess Cadence, even Princess Luna, but Queen Chrysalis. Why are the queens always the bad guys? It's one of the more interesting things I'd like you to walk away and think about. But even Cardcaptor Sakura, her purpose is to convert and bring back all the cloud cards. Come back home. Establish a home base. Because in a chaotic world where your grandmother can be murdered and replaced by a gypsy, sorry, it's just, I spent last summer touring through Germany running for my life. It can happen again. Versus, why do I bring up The Wizard of Oz? Why is The Wizard of Oz better for young boys and girls to read than Star Wars? Wizard of Oz is about a stranger in a strange land who gathers with her friends, who teaches them courage, teaches them compassion, teaches them about song and dance and flying monkeys and Toto, and ends up pushing someone evil off of the throne, ends up taking down a tyrant simply by listening and paying attention, simply by gathering a team and being a project manager, rather than one lone guy with a big lone gun. I loved The Wolverine. I thought it was the best Jason Statham movie in years. However, combine the Wolverine with Pacific Rim, I think Asian Americans finally got their Django Unchained. Your purpose is to heal, nurture, defend the home front, be the stalwart frontline or backline banner to inspire the troops. You're a drill instructor. What we see a common thread between Eastern and Western stereotypes is that there's always the mentor, the trainer, someone who comes from the magical world, is touched by the beyond, touched by the magic. Their purpose is to walk you through it. I put up Ron here because in my mind, Ron is Hermione's familiar, all right? Hermione is the real character. Ron and Harry are just her, Amy, and Rory, respectively. Travel. She has the power to learn more spells than Ghost Deer. She actually learns. She's the learned one. She's gathering. She's protecting. She's the only one that... She's the main character of the Harry Potter stories. Harry Potter is just a trust-funded jock. His only superpower is to buy better sports equipment. He takes Hogwarts and turns it into Penn State. If Harry Potter were shot in the 90s, he would be giving like swirlies to Hey Arnold, Kevin Arnold, and Doogie Howser, all right? Harry Potter would be the villain. Your drill instructor always has something that they bring over from the other world. They can assist you, they can teach you, but they can't do it for you unless you're Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, in which case you are the only main characters in that movie. They're badasses. Rewatch Sleeping Beauty. They solo Maleficent. They just have the prince there for the fun of it. The whole point of the original Sleeping Beauty is it's actually a battle between the good witches and the bad witches over who owns humanity. Has nothing to do with Sleeping Beauty. Why, in every Magical Girl show, now we're compartmentalizing going into the Magical Girl talk, why is it always a transformation? Why, starting from Princess Knight and Cutie Honey, all the way through the Sailor Moon Sailor Moon Crystal relaunch, why do we always take the time out to show the transformation? It is the compromise of our world and the magical world, taking a little bit of what we've learned from the outsiders and bringing it into our own, teaching ourselves to do something better. And Japan is is a country that has done nothing else than simply weaponize anything else that they've learned from the outside. When Commodore Perry marched in and said, "Open your ports, we're blowing you up," they looked and said, "Those guns are huge. We need guns like that." That's exactly what we did to Evangelion. God threw down an Ava, melted the ice cap, and we said, "That thing was huge! I want one!" Guess what, Shinji? It's Bring Your Son to Work Day. Happy birthday! I know it smells like your mom. Get in the robot! We always get the transformation there because it's the clothes that make the woman or it's the woman that makes the clothes. Either way, you're now holding that banner that says, I'm the one that you have to go through if you want your evil magic to affect and get into the rest of our world. Now, know the enemy. Now, the enemies in Magical Girl shows can arguably have very different themes than the ones that you'll get in Shonen. The big difference between the Shonen and the Shoujo, I like that Japan sees more their target audience as their their genres for their mediums, as opposed to sci-fi, western, romance. In America, we just think romance, animation, young girls, doesn't matter. You can have a very manly romance story, not exactly a yaoi, but you can have a very manly romance nonetheless. One of my favorite romantic comedies of all time, City of Angels. Mainly because it's so brilliantly, terribly cast, it's hilarious. But they pitch shows, the Josei, the Shoujai, the Shonen, stories geared toward young boys. What do young boys understand? Action, violence. Yes, they can get away with it in Bleach and Naruto, so long as it has a double D cup and it does the same thing that Naruto does, punch other ninjas in the face. That makes it a female character in a shonen. Versus Shoujo, which is so interesting. You read through a Shoujo and everyone is always on the cusp of making a critical decision in their lives. But everyone is, especially if you're reading Clamp, the characters are so lithe and so thin and bony. The girls kind of look, they look over girls and the guys look more like girls. Which ultimately tells me that everyone wants to make out with a hot girl. Therefore, recruits, hot girls, both of you have a specific mission. Make out with everyone you want to. The outsiders, the bad people, the ones who want to hurt you, me, and all of your friends. They come from the outside world. They are the invaders. We get it all the time in Western mythology. The Romans coming in to take over England, or you know, the Canaanites coming in to take over the Gaza Strip. It's a common universal human fear versus Japan, who grew up on cultural isolationism, developing into xenophobia. They don't have a word for racism. They did. It came in the 1960s. Racism. Borrowed it from us, guys. Adapting all the time. This is an island that's been its whole time terrified of outside invading forces. So of course, Queen Beryl and all of her minions of bitches. Well, here's the interesting thing. While the magical girl is always gathering her Sentai team, gathering her friends, there is a direct, real love and compassion between them. Your evil queen always has a bunch of minions that are controlled artificially by fear, by magic, telepathy, mind control, something that makes it not of their choice. When you remove choice and freedom, you remove the possibility of seeing someone as an individual. You do the exact same thing the moment that you compartmentalize, well, they're all just girls. Well, they're all just boys. Well, they're all just white. Well, they're all just Mexican. Well, they're all just old people. They can't possibly think for themselves or be different people. Well now, that's not how princesses function. That's not how you, as a proper magical girl, will function. Well, I had to. Veteran, magical girl roll call. I said in the beginning, this panel runs very much like P90X for the reason that earlier this year I wanted to lose 10 pounds by my 30th birthday. We never got around to bringing in a scale, so we were unsure how it worked. All that mattered was I was eating better, I was getting off the couch more, I was exercising, I felt better and more confident within, you know, this shell that I've been given for, you know, the next, I guess, 30, 40 years, however that's going to be. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys to volunteer, because each of the magical girls, each of the veterans I'm about to talk about who have earned their stripes, earned their stars, are going to get through it, and you're going to go through their training by doing a specific workout for each specific magical girl. And the volunteers. That's right. You gotta be fit. You gotta be fit mentally, emotionally, and physically. And we're gonna start at the very beginning. Now, there's a reason I don't put Cutie Honey in as the very first. And that is because I cannot for the life of me get my hands on a copy of any version of Cutie Honey. It's been driving me nuts. This panel is also 2 weeks old, so you gotta bear with me. I have to start at a little afterward, but a show that does establish one of the many tropes that would be followed and copied later on. Creamy Mami. Creamy Mami came out my and your birth year, if you are old enough to drink at this point. And if I say earth, fire, wind, water, you correctly respond with heart. If you were thinking only the Avatar can, get out, weeaboo scum. Enjoy your Diet Coke. Creamy Mami was, for my money, one of the first anime that really started merging with the pop idol industry. Here is a 10-year-old girl who's gifted by aliens the power to grow up, become 16 years old, become an internationally recognized pop star, and use music to save the world. Sound a little like AKB0048 or the Jetsons movie? It is. The reason I also bring this up is this is completely available for you guys. All 52 episodes are available at animesouls.com, which is a wonderful crowdsourced Kickstarter-based website that brings over anime from the 70s that never got the chance to skip over on the pond. It gives you the chance to watch these amazing, like, one-shot Osamu Tezuka, cancer fundraiser videos where Blackjack is a space pirate. It's magnificent. Anyway, that's animesouls.com. Creamy Mami is a fun one because there's not really any recurring villain. There's not really a big villain. She doesn't have her own barrel. She really is just a girl trying to get through the whole Jem/Hannah Montana. I can't let them know I'm really this popular. They're working on it. They're working. It's not a perfect show, but it is a very fun show. Her mentors were fellow aliens Posey and Niga. They are cute and fluffy because that's Japan for you, which is ultimately why Pokemon is so efficient. Pokemon combining everything that we love about Japan and Mexico. You don't believe me? Cute animals, cockfighting. So I'm gonna need a magical girl volunteer with a lot of upper arm strength. Come on up, my friend. Oh yes. How are you, Raichu Recruit? How are you doing? Is it electric? Boogie woogie? Pleasure to meet you. My name is Joe. What's your name, my friend?
Sandy.
Have you ever watched any of this show?
I have not.
Not a problem. I've got maybe 5 episodes in, but I'm having a great time with it. So if you're going to follow under Creepy Mommy's example, that means you're going to need a lot of power from the chest. That means you're going to need a lot of deltoid workout. And the only workout I can imagine that would work great for that are going to be triangle push-ups. Are you familiar with triangle push-ups? One of the best exercises they ever gave us. You form a heart over your chest, and that's how you do your push-up. You are not relying on your back to support you. You rely on simply your arms. And the way that you're going to do this with me, my friend, is we're going to get to 10. We're going to get to 10. If you need to stop at 5, that is totally fine. I'm not here to injure you. That's most likely, up to a random Squirtle walking around.
I saw it. An electric beats water.
I'll leave that to you. Target that when he's holding an ice shake. So on every one, you guys are going to chant out with Creamy Mommy. So it's going to be 1 Creamy Mommy, 2 Creamy Mommy, until we reach 10. So join me on the floor. I'm going to show you how to do the first one. Just chest down, and you're just going to put your heart over your hands, and then you just go up. To make it easier, you're going to come with me onto your knees. Just take a little weight off of your lower back, okay? So we're going to start off with 1 Creamy Mommy, 2 Creamy Mommy, 3 Creamy Mommy, 4 Creamy Mommy, 5 Creamy Mommy, 6 Creamy Mommy, 7 Creamy Mommy, 8 Creamy Mommy, 9 Creamy Mommy, 10. Give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. All right, you go back. I'm going to choose Butterfree next. Creamy Mommy was a fun one. Another fun one that is another classic. Now, flat out classic. I got to talk about Cardcaptor. So you have heard of it.
Yes.
Clamp, which opens up its own can of worms with just that one word. Clamps! Clamp took everything that they learned from Magical Knights Rayearth, which is a little El Hazard with magical girls plus lion mechas. And that is all forms of good. A lot of fun things were questioned, but they decided to make it a little more agreeable. Rather than throwing you into a brand new magical world and making us the invaders and the outsiders, it's a simple building roman. It's a story of Sakura, a young girl who is chosen by the Book of the Clouds. All the Cloud cards escape. They all have a different character that's going to try and buck against her and go their own way. Her mission: collect them, bring them in together. Clamp went all out with their costume designs, and she has a different costume for every other page of the manga or every 10 minutes in the episode. What I really like about this character, what I really like about the series, there is no real main villain, arguably. There's not someone who's standing up, I will connect all the Cloud cards first, and then the Gongi turn pie and punch you in the balls. It's really just training Sakura to be the best wizard she can be. The throne of the top magi is unoccupied. She's got to occupy it for the sake of there being a balance between the magical world and the mundane. This is a very mundane world. It is average suburban 4th grader kicking butt and looking adorable while doing it. This is also a show that deals with almost every kind of love. She's in love with a slightly older boy who's the same age as her brother, can't stand her brother. She also has an almost unhealthy stalker best friend who will film her doing anything, but that's sometimes what you need, a good producer who has an unlimited costume supply too. There's also an interesting, I won't say romance, but a definite supportive partnership with her and her partner Kiro, set in the manga. It's originally Cerberus. Sakura goes through trial and tribulation of really doing the Goku effect, which is meeting a rival and converting them to your side just by being compassionate, just by being open-minded and taking everything that she wanted to learn from her mom, which is just being a caring, supporting human being. Not being the prettiest girl, not being the smartest girl, but just being able to listen and give a damn to other people in her life. And that's why it's time for another volunteer. Are you ready, my friend? I'm loving all the ruffles. You have a lot of padding. This is good. I'm going to put you on the front line. All right, my friend.
Hi, nice to meet you.
What is your name, my friend?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, do you live local to Texas?
We're from Houston.
I apologize. I did Houston once. I did Kamikaze Con 4 years ago. Okay, so I was right. Have you ever seen Cardcaptor Sakura?
It was one of my first animes that I ever watched.
Because it was on the WB?
It was on the WB, and my mom was the one who actually got me that.
I love that dub.
That was awesome.
All right, are you ready for 10? So Cardcaptor Sakura has a lot of different, well, I want to say she goes through a lot of different challenges physically. Getting the flight card, getting on windy, but she's always quick and mobile. So the perfect exercise that's going to give you agility and strength is going to be jumping jacks. Now, they don't have to be full-on jumping jacks. If you are more comfortable, because I noticed you've got more riffles than a Lolita conference, if you just want to go halfway, or if you want to do wacky jacks, which are really a core exercise, it's a legitimate core exercise, that's fine by me too. It's the same thing. It's going to be 1 Cardcaptor Sakura, 2 Cardcaptor Sakura. I'm not going to rush it, you guys. I got plenty of seats up front. My friend, come on in. It's gonna be nice and gentle. Are you ready?
Ready.
Breathe in deep. And it's gonna be 1 Cardcaptor Sakura, 2
Cardcaptor Sakura,
3
Cardcaptor Sakura,
4
Cardcaptor Sakura,
5 6. I'll do the number. 7
Cardcaptor Sakura,
8
Cardcaptor Sakura,
9
Cardcaptor Sakura,
and 10.
Cardcaptor Sakura.
Give it up for Elizabeth. She did an amazing job. Wonderful and lovely. Is this an original design or who is this? Angelica Pretty?
Band plus friends, actually.
Damn. Okay. That's nice. My girlfriend's a big Lolita, but Alice and the Pirates are basically her brand, her game, her jam. When I do my podcast, I moved it into our walk-in closet where all of her ruffles and petticoats are. It's called the Lolita Cavern. It mutes sound so well. You have no idea, you guys. Moving on is the show I'm going to spend the most time talking about for very good reason. Because it's Before the relaunch, and they decided to give Sailor Venus the anal bead whip. What is that?
It's in the manga.
It is in the manga.
It is in the manga too.
It's also in Venus at the time. Fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight, never running from a real fight. She is the one named Sailor Moon. She will never turn her back on a friend. She's always there to defend. She is the one on whom we can depend. If it's not a math test. She's the one, the Sailor Venus, Mercury's cool ice pun bitches. Sailor Mars, Jupiter. And ignore Chibi Moon. Give secret powers also new to her. Oh, I've thought about this a lot. She's the one named Sailor Moon. She is the one named Sailor Moon. Now, granted, you can say all that you want about this establishing and merging both the Sentai and Magical Girl genre. Yes, you can say that this provided all of the groundwork that every other great Magical Girl show afterward would be playing with and twisting off of. This is your great, and for many of us born in the 80s and 90s, this was our first anime. This was the first thing that we saw. It comes from Japan. Where can I get more? This was the first show that really taught me about all the wonderful manga emoticons, such as like the blue lines of despair, the cloud of sorrow, that the crosshair of anger, and then the sweat drop. Remember trying to explain the sweat drop to your parents?
Yes.
What it represents? For me, it represents an emotion that is exclusive only to Japan that we don't have here in America. We don't have a word for it. It's called shame. We don't have that. But all the archetypes were really there. You had the traditional Japanese girl who worked at a Shinto shrine. She fought back against evil spirits. She was the element of fire. That was Mars. You had the typical smart girl who was a victim to her own cramming and own genius, because that's how we always view the Japanese. You had the athletic tomboy karate kick your ass and then bake a pie afterward. Jupiter was quite the shocker. And then somehow you had genius, and right in the center of it was the worst possible person to be a hero. Because Usagi, Tsukimi, is a ditz, a klutz. She needs to be bailed out almost every time by her friends or by some douchebag dressed like the Phantom of the Opera throwing a random flower at people. More importantly, it's a show that taught young boys that girls can kick just as much butt as guys. And look damn pretty while doing it. You didn't have to you didn't really have to sacrifice beauty. This was never really a show about how beautiful the girls were. They were comfortable and confident in each of their ways. And once a director named Ikuhara started taking over, who wanted to give Neptune and Uranus their own spin-off lesbian show, and they told him no, so he said, okay, I'll make an original lesbian anime afterward. The characters start questioning their role in the group. There are great episodes in which they doubt even their right to be Sailor Guardians. I love the episode where Amy, wanting to prove that she's more than just a brain, tries to outswim Sailor Venus domestically in a pool after hours, just for herself, just in some way needing to be confident within themselves. What does she do for the first time? Find the princess, find the crystal, assemble the wand, assemble the pieces, find Pegasus within someone's dreams. What are the monsters? They gather energy from us. They're parasites leeching off of our accomplishments, leeching off of our creativity. So you, of course, have a pretty guardian who's there only at night to back our asses up. Why she's also the greatest underdog of all time, her boss, her mentor, her mascot is a cat. Ever notice how Luna is like the first thing she throws at the monster in like that first 30 episodes? Luna's more effective in combat than Sailor Moon herself. That's kind of why we liked it, all right? Because it was something adorable. It was also an unstoppable engine in branding. Ever notice how a new character was always announced right when Christmas came along? Because Japan just finally realized what we had done in the 1980s, which is everything was an excuse to sell Japanese toys. Transformers, Ninja Turtles, everything was out-franchised just so we could sell more and more and more. Everything, every new episode, every new He-Man spin-off was just an excuse to sell toys. Sailor Moon was no different, but arguably the biggest difference was these were young girls not being bullied by men. They were being bullied by themselves, if anything, and they could always stand up together. And the reason that I come back to this show again and again and again. So my older cousin showed me Fist of the North Star. And there's this wonderful, one of my favorite moments in any archetypal story, if we're breaking it down by Joseph Campbell capabilities, is the slow climb up the Dark Tower, where you're fighting the final boss, walking through that gauntlet. And there's just a silent shot of Ken, the main character, walking across the desert. It's just one man against the horizon and a slow zoom in on his face. Right toward the end of the first series, right when they're fighting Queen Beryl, Usagi is stripped one by one of her friends, of her supporting team, the only people who, with them, she can classify herself as a hero. She's in the middle of the freaking Arctic, no way to get home, no reckless abandon, no food, no supplies, no hope, no possibility. And she's fighting against an evil queen taller than any building she's ever faced. And the camera zooms in on her eyes, and for the first time in 30 episodes, there are no tears, there is no doubt, there is no lines of shame, there's no sweat drop. There's just one determined human being who has walked through every trial and tribulation, faces something bigger than her, and says, you're going down. You face me now. Later, America would spin it off and it would become known as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I kid you not, Joss Whedon has said many times in interviews, this was his inspiration for Angel. Still is to this day. And the main reason I talk about this show so much, it's the same reason that any Whovian older than 30 remembers Tom Baker and Sarah Jane. Because just from syndication, exposure, and osmosis alone, every time statistically you turn on the TV, you are most likely going to see The Doctor and Sarah Jane. Because the two of them are like 100 episodes, or like 100 episodes of Classic Who. You were always going to see that. We were always going to see Sailor Moon. It was still one of the biggest cash cows for anime of the 90s. This opened up the floodgates and allowed other people to look over into Japan. We would not have bought and licensed Pokemon had Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z not been the big hit wonders that they were, because it was something different. And that is the one thing that no magical girl or princess should ever turn away. Something, because it is different. Speaking of something very different, are we ready for the ultimate workout? Are you ready for, do you want to do this model code or do you want to wait for your own show?
I want to wait for my own show.
Okay, fair enough. Come on up, Usagi. I see the wig. You're ready for this. Give it up. Give it up for your new princess. Hello, my friend. My name is Yo. What is your name? Bree. Are you native to the area?
Unfortunately.
Is this your first time in Japan?
Yes.
Most excellent. Are you ready to find out what the ultimate 5-girl workout for Sailor Moon is? There's only one thing that I could count on that measures all 5 cardiovascular muscles, and that is burpees. Are you familiar with burpees? Okay, most excellent. I will do these bad boys with you. Burpees is a push-up that ends in a jump back down to a push-up. That's okay. What's gonna happen, you're gonna count to 10. I'm gonna do them at these people. So what's gonna happen, she's gonna call out 1, you're gonna go Sailor Moon, but it's gotta be slow because there's a lot of motions in this bad boy. So when you're ready, Usagi, you count me off at 1, okay?
1.
Sailor Moon.
2.
Sailor Moon.
3.
Sailor Moon.
4.
Sailor Moon.
5.
Sailor Moon.
6.
Sailor Moon.
7.
Sailor Moon. I hate the show now.
9.
Sailor Moon. One more.
10.
Sailor
Are you following the new show on Hulu at all?
Of course.
What do you think of the Vocaloid transformations?
It's okay.
I'm getting there too. Thank you so much, my friend. Get a round of applause for Bree. I said there was a director named Ikuhara who steps in on like the Tree of Life and also the Sailor Stars chapters later on. Give me a moment. Learned so much about fashion. Sit-ups.
You need some water?
It's a vocal technique I learned at the haunted house called drowning the Muppet. It helps to get your voice back. In addition to when Chibi Moon came in and fighting off the evil circus, the director Ikuhara had this idea. I want to make a lesbian show about Venus and Uranus. And they said no. So he said, okay, new idea. I'll make the same lesbian show anyway. 3 weeks ago, I officiated my first wedding as a cleric of the Universal Life Church to my dear friends Judith and Natalie, who joined me on an episode of We Are the Geek to discuss this show. Their wedding, Utena themed. Photos are all on Facebook. This is art, basically almost at its highest. Now I will warn you, do not watch that movie.
What movie? Oh, no.
Good girl. 39 episodes of this intense psychological breakdown. This was one of the first shows that was coming out in 97. It decided to take the magical girl trope, it decided to take the whole genre of new student comes to school, daily fight every day, turn it upside down, and give it shadow puppets to describe the story. There are 2 things happening in every single shot of Revolutionary Girl Utena. One is literally, yes, they're surrounded by flowers, she's trying to stab somebody with a sword to save Anthe, to keep her the Rose Bride. Secondly, now it gets a bit complicated. Almost every version that you can read into this show, whether it's through Japanese folklore, whether it is a metaphor for feminism, or whether it is a metaphor for old Japan versus new Japan in the restock and the revolution that happened between the 60s and the 70s, whether you want to see it as the butt against Commodore Perry's invasion, they all kind of work on this show. It's weirdly intense and smart. It also, for my money, has some of the funniest filler episodes of all time, including being chased by elephants and punching a kangaroo. Oh, bastard deserved it. There are phrases that are thrown and become their own iconic language in this show. Revolutionize the world. The Rose Bride. Take my revolution. The thing is, what's never defined is any of it. What does the verb revolutionize really mean to each of the characters? What does the world encompass for these characters? You never see the world outside of this weird symbolic school that they're all in. Combine that with the fact that all the other 5 people, there are really only 5 other villains and characters in the show. And yet the hardest part that a lot of newbies for the first time they watch Utena is, why the hell does anyone care about Anthy? When you start to realize she is not only the real main character, she's responsible for every single day in Utena's life. She's responsible for every weird thing that happens that you simply write off, it's an anime, of course that would happen. Weird things, which you start learning about witch mythology, you start learning about prince and princess mythology. This is a show in which a girl dons a man's uniform, and after like 20 seconds of basic like male shaming because she's not dressed like a girl, she proves she has a reason to dress like a girl when she's physically better than everyone else in the school. It goes to talent, not the way that you dress. She becomes the captor of the Rose Bride, Anthy. She beats Saionji in her first duel by sheer luck and passion. All the other great characters circulating around trying to fight for Anthy to be their, basically, well, Pokemon, let's call it out right now. They want to own Anthy because she represents something to them. Anthy herself is a blank slate in the character, but once you watch that series a second time, you start to realize this is not only the villain, but the real main character of the show, and you didn't even realize it the first time until episode 6. And then it's just 36 other episodes of maybe naked cars and rose fights. It's just as crazy as that sounds. There's no right way to really just condense this show into 5.5 minutes. That's why we talk about it for an hour and a half of the podcast. That's why Rim and Scott at Geek Nights are doing episode breakdowns that are 40 minutes long for 20-minute episodes of Utena to let you know what you missed in every shot. It is just that smart. This is not a gateway anime. This is not the first show you show friends when you want to pull them into anime. This is when you are ready for your PhD dissertation in film and art history. It's when you're ready for it. Now, with Utena, there comes a very specific workout because every day you're going to be fencing, so you're going to need leg strength. And I'm ready for my next volunteer. Ready? Got one up, my friend? Ooh, careful on the wires. What's your name, my friend?
Cecilia.
Cecilia, are you local to the area?
Yes.
Is this your first San Japan?
No.
Rock and roll. Which year is this for you?
This will be my 4th year.
I love it. Please welcome Cecilia up here. Cecilia, you are going to be defending Anthy left and right, so you need to get good with a sword. And Utena's only signature move is to yell and charge forward, which means your workout is going to be the squat thrusts. Are you familiar with squat thrusts? You're simply going to turn your heels facing each other, your feet out, and you're going to go down as far as you're comfortable going and come back out. That's as simple as it is, and we're going to do 10 of those. It's going to be 1 Utena, 2 Utena from the audience. Are you ready, guys? Ready for Cecilia to make it to 10?
Yes.
Let's do this. And 1
Utena.
2
Utena.
3
Utena.
4
Utena.
5
Utena.
6
Utena.
7
Utena.
8
Utena.
9
Utena.
and 10.
Utena.
Congratulations, you did wonderful. All right, 20 minutes left. I know I can do this. I had to cut myself short because the first time I ran this panel was last Saturday, a week ago. Spent too long in the feminist theory and also spent too long going over Utena because it's just, I love the show. Let's break the mold again. This is a magical girl show only on the surface. This is a wonderful gateway anime because just like Attack on Titan, it exists in a strange little German fairy tale fantasy in which death is really apparent in this world. Yes, it is a magical girl show in which the mascot is its own main character. Duck dreams of being a wonderful princess. She is transformed into a well, clumsy idiot dancing girl stuck in this dancing school named, cleverly enough, Duck. who can then transform into Princess Tutu. Princess Tutu's entire mission is to reassemble the broken hearts and reassemble the emotions of Prince Buto, who is the blandest, flattest character because his heart is broken, okay? It's all in different parts. Those shards of the Shikon jewel that are his heart are wedged into all these other people holding on to that regret, holding on to his hate, his love, his fear. Now, Tutu's also terrible at her job because even though she solves the problem of all the monsters and ghosts and spirits and vengeful girlfriends through dance, she also reassembles the heart wrong. Muto's first major emotion that she returns to him is fear. Uh-oh. Ever wonder what it's like being a Greek mother? Now you do. This is unacceptable! This is also a very intelligent show because it's a story in which it is self-aware that it is a story. All the characters recognize their archetypes, and what's best is when they realize they're in a story and they fight back against their own author. And I love that clever twist of it. I also love Tutu's means of fighting. Every dissertation, every violent action is exposed through interpretive dance. Even characters that can't dance, she'll step up into it and complete the frame. It's all based on ballet, it's all based on Swan Lake, it's all just a retelling of these wonderful Hans Christian Andersen stories within every different episode. Her main attack is not to throw a boomerang, it's not to cast a fireball, it's not to kick something in the balls, except that in episode 12. So, but it's simply, come dance with me. Tell me what is broken in your heart. Let me help you. So in that dance, the monster tells them, it's been years and no one has used me, no one has picked me up, no one has recognized me. And really, most of Tutu's logic is really down-heart aggressive. She's not there to baby or tell anyone it's going to be fine. Most of her dialogue with the enemy is, well, get over it. Everyone else moved on, you need to too. Move on with your damn life. I love that! Someone that pretty and that pragmatic to an almost aggressive stance, you will never see that. It's also an adorable little duck. This was, I think it's a wonderful dub too. I also think that despite how cute the characters are and childish the drawing is, there's some pretty darker themes and some pretty darker episodes in this. I think if you're watching, you agree. It really challenges you and pushes you of, are you ready to make these hard decisions? Are you really ready to see a story as an adult? Are you ready to be a balanced person rather than the cutest girl, the best ballerina? Can you compromise by not ending with the love of your life? Oh my God, a magical girl show that ends with the main girl not getting the love of her life and being fine with that. Jennifer Lawrence's head just explode. Jennifer Aniston's head just explode. J-Lo's ass just explode. There's no reason for a romantic comedy again. You cannot, you don't have to end up with Gerard Butler and you can be fine with it. So who's ready for the Princess Tutu workout? Come on up, my friend. You're excited. I mean, I really want Faith from Mirror's Edge in a way, but I think this workout will work out just fine for you. Oh, you're jingling. I love this. My ADD is like on 10 right now. Hi, my friend. My name is Yo.
I'm Victoria.
Victoria, pleasure to meet you. Oh, the Victoria from the Victorian era. I love it. How long do you think you've been in steampunk?
I think I just probably started like a couple years ago.
Good. Steampunk is outside of time and space and doesn't need anything. Are you ready for the Princess Tutu workout?
Yes.
A lot of leg, a lot of endurance, a lot of breathing, which is why monster trucks. Monster truck tires kind of work like this. You have 4 monster truck tires in front of you, and you're gonna run through them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So every number is going to be 4, and when they say Princess Tutu, you're going back 4.
Okay.
Are you excited for it?
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. You guys ready to see Victoria crush this one?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to have you back up a little into the corner so that you've got plenty of leg room. And if you just want to keep your legs a little lower, that is totally fine. I bring these all the way up in P98, so that's how the loud white man yelled at me for. So it's going to be 1, she does 4 steps. Princess Tutu, she takes 4 steps back. So it's going to be 1.
Princess Tutu.
Wait,
Okay.
I'm a derp.
You got it. Ready? 1.
Princess Tutu.
On our way back. 2.
Princess Tutu.
3.
Princess Tutu.
The sound makes it all the better. 4.
Princess Tutu.
5.
Princess Tutu.
6.
Princess Tutu.
7.
Princess Tutu.
love this belt. Give it up for Victoria. And you are way down my Maryland here. Congratulations. Now, as I said, the most memorable Magical Girl shows are the ones that break the mold and really think outside of the box. Well, some of them decide to destroy the box entirely. Now, the most interesting thing for me to point out about Puella, Magi, Madoka, is not only are each girl representative of a different stereotype that you'll get in the Shonen show, in the Shonen or the help me, the Japanese word for a five-man team, a Sentai team. Are they all the 5 different houses mentality of Japanese Parliament while this came out? Are they all the 5 different stages of grieving? Are they all the 5 different religious views of life and death and desire? Yes, and all of those examples work on this show. This is a show that looks adorable on the outside and is sinister and bitter and pragmatic on the inside. When I released my latest album, Ecto Kid Lore, in order to promote it, I did a bunch of videos with my Cubase puppet, where Cubase worked as my publicity intern. I had him working the phones for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. What an amazing freaking dub that they did on this. Yes, all of the witches have something archetypally to do with a different kind of shaming of modern Japanese girls. Study shame, slut shaming, gender shaming. Yes, all of the witches have are something that Monica lacks as a character. This is a show in which the main character does not become a magical girl, doesn't make the contract, doesn't do what every girl does in the first 10 minutes of her show until the last freaking episode. Why do we spend like 12 episodes watching someone go, I don't know if I like this? Because every step of the way, every person around her is being picked off one by one because she's being contested and right in the center of all of these amazing different schools of thought that are all completely correct. Is it pragmatic? Are you really out for yourself? Is it worth mentoring and being the model that you need to be? Are you going to be the change that you need to be in the world? Are you going to be the martyr and shoulder all the weight and all the responsibility? Or are you going to pick up an AK-47 and make the world your own? This is an intense show. There's a reason I call it the Ava of the magical girl genre. This took the magical girl genre, threw it into a corner, and beat it until it was black and blue. More so than Elfin Lied did. Yeah, because this one was tactful and metaphorical. Elfin Lied is just child porn, I'm sorry. I mean, I love it thematically, but I hate it as a feminist. Like, I'm aggressively moving on. This is still an amazing show. It looks fantastic. The music is gripping, and it's also really hard to walk away from it, not feeling something changed. Just as Anno went off his, medication to make Ava, which the message of Ava is, God hates you and y'all gonna die. Creator of this went back on his medication and said, the world's always going to come at you, but there's always going to be hope. That's what makes us human, in that we have the choice of getting out of bed and actually living our lives for ourselves. And what's best about the show, why it crushes the Bechdel test, there's no talking men in the show, basically. I mean, yeah, you've got, the one was actually dubbed by Little Karibo's wife, the one boy in the show, and then you got Monica's father, where they gave Kylie Bear 3 lines. Hi, honey. Eat your breakfast. Have a nice day at school. Best mother in all of anime is Monica's mother. Oh, I hate the CEO. I wonder if I could kill him and take over the company. She comes home drunk and her 13-year-old daughter's dragging her to the bathtub. Mom, not again. No, I had to. Had to show him. Had to be a role model. It's like Yukari from Azumanga Daioh finally grew up. Everything on the surface is a complete lie, but no matter how dark it gets, never lose sight of the mission. I've watched episode 10 of this show so many times. More than I've watched episode 14 of Ergo Proxy, which is waiting for Godot in a post-apocalyptic dystopian wasteland. Are you ready? Going on, my love? Let's give a round of applause, Monica. Brianna, how long have you had the costume?
How long I had it for? I think this is my 3rd year.
Can I just say you have the kind of voice that most voice actors train to mimic. I love this. You are so adorable. Because everything works with this. Are you ready for the Monica workout?
Yes, sir.
You ready to make Homer proud?
Yes, sir.
There's going to be 1 Monica, 2 Monica. Ready? 1!
Monica!
2!
Monica!
3!
Monica!
4!
Monica!
5!
Monica!
6!
Monica!
7!
Monica!
8!
Monica!
9!
Monica!
1 more! 10!
Monica!
Hell yeah! Thank you so much for coming up to the panel. You told Cupid to shove off. Don't ever say yes.
I'll make the little cute.
I wrap up. Yeah, that's the general reaction. The guy next, the feminist who gave us booty cootie, and then Trigger, the people who gave us girl like gone, and then Panty and Stocking decided to take every genre stereotype you ever had, flip it upside of its head, and have it fist you in the face. This is a show where the most masculine character is the girl's school uniform, and the two, darkness and light, are constantly trying to scissor each other. Wait, hang on. You read the first 12 episodes as a retelling of a Japanese folklore. You read the whole Ragyo, which is just like rainbow moth milk, as America walking into the shores of Japan and telling them what to do, how to live their life. You see Satsuki as Amaterasu, the sun goddess of Japanese folklore mythology. Everything else starts falling into place. You see her elite 4 as the 4 saints of Zen Buddhism. You start to see it correctly. This is a show that was made as a heartfelt tribute to all 70s anime. This is a show that arguably can be just as unfeminist as it is feminist, because the strongest characters are fine. Sasuke has the line, if I had to beat your ass down naked, I would. Considering she runs through a gauntlet, hands tied, murdering minions with a toenail. It's just a fun show. That's it. It's just fun, you guys. I'm running out of time, so you're just gonna join me. It's the cross, jab, hook, uppercut, because if anyone does not let their guard down, it is Ryoku. The jab is very simple. It is forward. The cross goes right over. That's meant to be defensive. The hook is a much more defensive curve because you got to keep yourself tight. I don't want you guys doing this in your chairs. Christ help us, no. And then the uppercut. That's the hardest one, but I'm going to keep moving on it. So it's going to be 1 kill a kill, and I'm going to try to do all 4 of those punches in the time that we have. So it's going to be 1
Kill a kill!
2
Kill a kill!
3
Kill a kill!
4
Kill a kill!
5
Kill a kill!
6
Kill a kill!
7
Kill a kill!
8
Kill a kill!
9
Kill a kill!
and 10.
Kill a kill!
Rock and roll. I'm gonna give myself a Bootcamp master button because I earned that shit. and we're just about to wrap up Kill la Kill if you haven't, all available on Crunchyroll and Hulu. And the prettiest princess of all, I told you I'd be breaking gender boundaries. He has a crossover lineage, an alien heritage. He has the potential to be the best, to be the greatest killer queen of all time, but he battles with his indecisive self. Gohan's greatest villain and challenge is always dealing with his own insecurities. That's what makes him an interesting person. Internal conflict. That's why he should have trumped his father, but no, Daddy was the, plot hole McShieldy that always saved the day because Daddy could punch things harder. That's why Dragon Ball Z is Dragon Ball Z, and magical girls will always be superior to that. Some of the last exit strategies about what it really meant to be a positive fan of magical girls, essentially what these things have taught me over the last 3 or 4 years, getting into these arguments, getting into discussions with literary feminists and social justice movement people. Strength is never measured by how hard you punch something, no matter what Hollywood tells you, all right? Let me tell you a little something about how Hollywood rates things, the MPAA. Once, that beautiful music, the beautiful 45-minute long musical about an Irish and a Polish woman who fall in love, but don't actually have sex, was given an R rating because of cursing, because they didn't hook up at the end. You show any woman getting pleasure, it's an X rating. You show any man getting pleasure, it's a PG-13. You show heads being exploded, people getting sliced in half, PG-13 rating. You see anything other than a handshake between two guys, X. That's the nation we live in. We're so close to actual progress, right? We have straight old white men deciding the reproductive rights of gay black young women. Where's the justice in that? That's like having a shark plan the baby seal schedule. Mercy will reciprocate as often as vengeance. It's up to you when you break the cycle and actually start dealing with people. Stand together, trust your friends. Cosplay will never be consent. If you want to say more to the girl, but you don't think you can, do yourself a favor, step away. She's got her life, you've got yours. Write your injuries in sand, write your blessings in stone. Because I promise you, anyone who has ever bullied you or shamed you or in any way hasn't even forgotten it, because for them, it was only Tuesday. It doesn't matter. You move on and you take care of the people close to you. You be a good person. I'm not telling you to be a strong man. I'm not telling you to be a strong woman. I'm telling you to be a compassionate, decent, freaking human being, all right? Because that's what we all are at the end of it. We all have the same basic emotional needs, and it's up to us as the geek community, because we know better, because we happen to be highly literate, to actually care about other people, all right? That's who we are, and that's who you deserve to be. Because clothing does not make the man, does not make the woman, whoever, whatever you are. That is my friend Charles Battersby, dressed as Lolita Captain America, standing up for the rights of Americans. And this is the prettiest Disney princess of all freaking time. Toddler girl told her mother, I want to be Thor for Halloween. Her mom said, you can't be Thor. Thor's not for girls. Thor's not pretty. She showed the movie and said, Thor is very pretty. Thank you for joining me in Surviving Magical Girl Bootcamp. Go out, fight the foe, whether they are external, internal. Don't lose your way. Thank you so much, everybody. Live, laugh, and love.